For all of my MMA fans, the Alabama A&M quarterback battle between Quad Brown and Mekhi Hagens has ended with a doctor stoppage. Oh yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current site expert at Who Dat Dish and contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusive. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We'll wrap up today's episode with a look at the HBCU 4U's coalition. I had to warm up to this idea, but now that I'm here, I'm very happy about what it can be. Speaking of what things can be, SWAC TV ceiling is sky high. Matter of fact, I think that the new initiative by the SWAC has the ability to be their own ESPN Plus. But let's kick this whole thing off with a quarterback battle. It has been settled. It is over. Quad Brown is the Alabama A&M starting quarterback come week one. I used an MMA analogy in the beginning of our episode. I said the quarterback battle between Quad Brown and Mekhi Hagens for Alabama A&M has been ended with a doctor stoppage. And I think that was really, I ain't gonna lie, that was impromptu. Didn't expect to go that route. But I also think it is a perfect analogy for how I personally view this battle. Because when you look at the head-to-head between Brown and Hagens, calling it a doctor stoppage is simply saying that it ended before we could get a definitive winner. And that's what this feels like. So for those who don't know, maybe they hadn't been seeing it on Twitter. Maybe you ain't following me at South Exclusives. I don't know why you're not doing that. You watching this, you in every day. Or if you're not following me on Twitter, you just don't have Twitter. That has to be the only explanation. But regardless, I'm happy that you're here. So let me not alienate my people. But when it comes to this, Mekhi Hagens had to step away because of academic issues. Because of academic issues, Mekhi Hagens had to step to the side, and he is no longer in this battle. He is no longer on Alabama A&M's roster. That, to me, is indicative of a doctor's stoppage. Because I'm sitting here wondering, well, who was winning? Right? You ever watch a real good fight? And I'm not just talking about one where it's a lot of hand throwing. I mean a tight fight, a good tight fight where either round, this round 2 could have went this way. Round 3 could have went that way. You ever watch a 5-round fight and only one round is actually definitive? Everyone, you're like, I could have went there, could have went there. That's what this feels like. Though I wasn't on the field, I wasn't out there watching practice, and you're getting very limited information. It just felt like Quad Brown, they had a guy who they really trusted, and then they bring in Mekhi Hagens, somebody who had a lot of hype behind him from what he did in this conference just last year. It felt like it was going to be a really close head-to-head. And I also feel like we just didn't get to see it to the end. And it makes you wonder what would have happened if this battle could have continued until, let's say, mid-August. Instead, it ended at the end of July. So I briefly touched on this on Thursday's episode. The news actually broke Wednesday night. However, I didn't want to speak out of turn. And I was hoping that I would get more information about what academics means. And I didn't. I didn't get any more information. And I kind of should have expected that, to be honest, because coaches aren't really in the business of exposing a lot. They're not in the business of really revealing a lot. But this would have been an exposing type of deal. But this is per Craig Haley, who says Alabama A&M, this is a quote, Alabama A&M has removed quarterback transfer Mekhi Hagens from its roster due to academics, a source close to the team confirmed. When asked Sam Shade about it, he just said, hey, nothing else I can say, he's not here. That's probably all I should have expected to get. But because I didn't get more from Sam Shade, I'm now forced into speculation mode. And I love speculative mode. I hate it at the same time because eventually it feels like details come out. And when you are speculating, you have to look at both sides, and naturally you're going to lean one way, right? Like to be honest, I'm going to lean on what I think is, I don't think it's really that bad. But I think that Mekhi Hagens probably just couldn't get his transfers credited over, or his credits transferred over. And this is the thing about when you go from different schools. When you go from different schools, and I experienced this or I had the chance to experience this, but I ended up not, thankfully. But in high school, right? So obviously I didn't play ball or anything, so I'm not trying to put myself in those shoes. But in high school, I took dual credit classes. So I took classes that gave me high school credit as well as college credit. If you got kids, tell them do some of the sort. The thing about it is, I wasn't sure where I was going to go to school. It's not like I was always planning on going to TSU. It wasn't even like I was always planning to stay in the state of Texas, right? Things just happened to fall that way for me. But the point is, at these different schools I was going to, I had to look to see would they take this credit, because how the dual credit worked was technically I got that college credit from the community college, right? And I'm not going to get all into the academics of dual credit versus AP classes, like whatever floats your boat, I guess. But for me, I was a dual credit guy. And the idea of, I was thinking about going to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State wasn't going to take some of my credits. TSU took all of my credits. So I came into school as a sophomore. But that's the point that I'm trying to make, that different schools are going to take different credits. And maybe you see Mekhi Hagens go somewhere that's back in Arkansas, because it's probably more likely that somewhere in Arkansas would take these credits, because for me, that's the way I view it from my personal experience. I felt like more schools in Texas took my community college credits than out of state did. So he was at UAPB. Maybe he just goes somewhere back in that state and he's able to get back into the swing of things. But Hagens went to Lamar first, and then he transferred out to Alabama A&M. It makes me feel like those academic issues are the things that prevented him from being at Lamar University. I don't want to speculate too much, but that feels like not a safe assumption, but it's one of a multitude of very reasonable outcomes, or reasons, I should say. I think that Mekhi Hagens simply not being able to get his credits transferred over from Arkansas Pine Bluff to Alabama A&M could be the reason that you're looking at him in this situation that he's currently in. But at the same time, a lot of the attention is going to go to Mekhi Hagens, because we all wanted to see what he could be. Even if he would have stayed at Arkansas Pine Bluff, we wanted to see what he could be. So going to Alabama A&M under Sam Shade, there was a lot of intrigue, but he's out of the picture. And it doesn't sound like Coach Shade is really stressing it, because when asked about what the quarterback situation is like, it's very clear. Quad Brown is the starter. He was asked about it, and Coach Shade said, coming out of the spring, Quad was a starter. We like some of the guys behind him. It's not a Quad's the starter and we're going to have a competition going on. It's, we like our starter and we like our backups, but they are backups. Though he did not verbatim say that, that was the vibe that I got. The vibe I got from Sam Shade is, now that Mekhi Hagens is gone, you can sit here and say comfortably that Quad Brown is the starter. Everybody else behind him is good, but they're also backups. And you want to have good backups. The reason this excites me, though, is because finally, after years of hot potato, you get it, we're going to hopefully, health permitting, of course, hopefully see one quarterback for Alabama A&M all year long. And it's been too long since we've seen that. And it's aggravated me every single year that Maynard did that. I'm hoping under Shade that trend is done. But as we push forward, I want to look at SWAC TV, because I think that the ceiling for this SWAC TV app is ESPN Plus. I think that this legitimately can be an ESPN Plus type of venue for the SWAC. I wish it could be HBCUs, but we're going to keep it to one conference for the moment. And I'm going to explain what they need to do in order to reach that ceiling and also how soon that they can reach it as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by DripDrop. And when I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy's better, my mood's better, my shows are better, my focus, my skin is better. Everything is better. But at the same time, getting the amount of fluids necessary tends to be difficult for me. And that's why DripDrop has become a daily part of my routine. DripDrop is the doctor-developed and scientifically proven for a way of fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading sports drinks. I've tried a lot of powders. Nothing tastes as good or works as fast as DripDrop. So that's the only thing that I'm going to be putting into my body. Right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. If you're a fan of another bigger, larger college, you've probably already seen our top 100 college football player list. If you haven't, go check it out. Our experts from all of the different schools and conferences put a lot of work in, and they delivered a great list. We obviously aren't talking about it here because there's no HBCU players on the list, but I did have a chance to see it, and you should as well. As we continue, though, the ceiling for SWAC TV is an HBCU version of ESPN Plus. And I will say this, I do wish that the SWAC and the MEAC joined forces on this. That would have been great. But at the same time, it's not happening. Instead, I just hope that the MEAC creates their own. But that's not the point here. Right now, we're looking at SWAC TV because it drops today. Now, my dad said that on Roku, he was already able to get it. I'm an Amazon Fire TV guy. All right. Just going to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Fire TV guy. I got a couple in the crib. So I had to wait until August 1st. I was originally going to touch this topic earlier in the week. I think I've been talking about this since as early as last week. I've been waiting to get to this. But I thought, you know what? It'd be more thematic if I just waited until the day it dropped. Y'all know me. I'm a thematic guy. I like concept albums. I like these type of things. So SWAC TV drops on August 1st. Darrion Gray talks about the ceiling as we get to the genesis. But honest and truly, I think that SWAC TV has the ability to be an ESPN Plus type platform. And I think that's what they're going to model it after. There's just a little bit of time that goes before you get there. I'm not rushing. And when it comes to expectations, this is the thing about expectations is when you're talking about expectations, a lot of times there's like a silent timetable that's placed on those expectations. I don't want to do that here. I think that they can reach it in 3 to 4 years, but I'm not expecting them to reach it in 3 to 4 years. This is just as time goes on, as you are able to figure out what the basics are going to be, how to operate the basics, how to organize your platform, what is the best financial decision, what is actually profitable. Like these are a lot of things that you have to figure out. How do I go about this? How do I go about financing this and not spending too much money, right? Like you have to figure out all of these things. And I think it's best to figure them out ahead of time. And I think the SWAC TV will do that. I think it's a great business. I'm not expecting them to be this day one. I opened it up day one. And then you know what? They gave me about what I expected. When I opened it up day one, it does not look like a SWAC ESPN Plus. It looks like a hub for SWAC athletics, specifically football. And you know what? That's what it should be day one. Volleyball included, because volleyball is going to be another one of those fall sports. But day one, all it needs to be is a hub for SWAC sports. That's it. Day one, that's all I need. Year one, that's all I need. I'm honestly, I'm probably even cool with this year two. I think that as we get into year three, you'll start seeing them experiment with different things. And part of the things that you experiment with are going to make you this SWAC ESPN Plus. And I know you may wonder, I said that the ceiling of SWAC TV is an ESPN Plus type of format. Well, isn't just having all of the sports on this platform ESPN Plus-esque? No, it's not. Right now, I expect to see my football, my volleyball, my basketball, men's and women's, my golf, my tennis, my softball, my baseball, my track and field, right? Like my bowling. I expect to see all of that. And that huge collection may feel like that is an ESPN Plus type feature. No, I think that is a similarity. But when we're talking about the SWAC TV platform being a SWAC TV ESPN Plus type of deal, I need more than that, because ESPN Plus is going to give you more than just live and on-demand content. So this is what Charles McClellan had to say, Dr. Charles McClellan had to say. He says, for the first time in history, our fans and supporters will have a high-quality, technologically advanced streaming platform solely dedicated to broadcasting live and delivering high-definition on-demand league content. That right there is the interesting part. Because what does high definition on demand content look like? Right? Like that's one thing I think needs to be determined. Because if on demand just means I can watch week 4 games when I'm in week 9, I expect that year 1. I think that's very easy. I think that's already what they plan to do. But what about maybe some games from 2022? What about when we're in 2029? Am I still going to be able to watch games from 2024? Those are the type of things that I'm looking for as far as on-demand content, a nice, depth. I don't want to say throwback, but I want to be able to go far back, right? I want to be able to do that. But also, when I go and I look at ESPN Plus, I see games, I see live programming, I see documentaries, I see on-demand games, and I think that the SWAC can produce every single one of those things. I don't think that that is at all beyond the realm of their possibilities or their capabilities, excuse me. When I'm looking at the SWAC, I think you can give me live games, which you're already going to do. You can give me on-demand games from earlier that year, which I already expect them to do year 1. You can give me documentaries, and you can give me live programming as well. It doesn't have to be as much as ESPN, right? Like the finances aren't there. ESPN does 50 million shows. I'm not asking for the SWAC to do 50 million. I'm not even asking for them to do 5 million. But what I'm saying is, can I get about 5 of them? Can I get a show that comes out weekly, twice a week, previewing and recapping football? And I'm just talking about that because that's the first one that's coming up. Preview, recap, volleyball. Let's just go around the SWAC. I do it already, y'all. Just saying, I do it already. I'm out here shooting my shot, all right? I did it with the Cam Newton situation. I'm going to do it here. But around the SWAC, previewing all of the big time games, what happened in volleyball, because I think that's an easy way. It's like a Sports Center type of deal. The more sports that are going on in that session, talk about them all, hit them all. It's a good way for people to be able to take in all of your sports content, or just at least be knowledgeable about all of your sports content without having to watch and absorb all of it, right? So I think that that is something that is very doable. I think that'd be helpful. But let's not just say what's going on right now. Because, yeah, that'd be great. Because a lot of people aren't watching volleyball. They'll be here for football. And if you have a weekly show, it's like, hey, yeah, this is going on in football. And then, boom, you get the volleyball, too. They'll be getting that knowledge and maybe even start watching. I think it's a big thing. You have to put things in people's face. People don't know what they want to be interested in unless they're oftentimes, especially at a certain age, pushed into it. Right. I think as a baby, as a kid, growing up, you may be a little bit more curious. But as we get older, people are kind of set in their ways. But if you put volleyball right there next to football and not just click down, not just, there goes Texas A&M, or excuse me, Texas Southern versus Prairie View A&M. That was a crazy combination. I wonder who's going to kill me about that. But there goes the football game. That's the Labor Day Classic. I'm not saying right underneath have Alabama State versus Alabama A&M volleyball. That's not what I mean. I mean, have a show that is about all the sports. And right after you mention football, you're able to get to volleyball. We understand what's the most profitable. We understand that there's not going to be anything that is going to be discussed more than football. And it should be that way. That is the way it should operate, because that is the biggest money generator. But you can also mention these other sports as well. A nice little, doesn't have to be a debate show. If you want to do that, that's fine. I think that'd be something a little bit farther down the line. I don't think I would do that day one, but that's the way that I'm looking at it. Anyway, in addition to live programming, in addition to all of that, what about some documentaries? What about the FAMU team that, granted, they weren't in the SWAC, so I don't know how that would work, but what about the FAMU team that won the national championship? What about the Jackson State women's basketball run? What about this off season, right? We got some schools that have some pretty good video departments. PV, Jackson State, like I like what I see from them. You could work with them and get something going. What about when Alcorn was going to the SWAC championship game for over half a decade straight? What about the Alcorn versus Louisiana rivalry? Specifically, when it was Grambling, I think it was 3 years in a row that it was Alcorn versus Grambling, maybe 4. It was either 3 or 4. And then I think it was 3, and then the other 3 was Southern. Like, what about that? Like, these are documentaries that can chronicle a time frame that not only hits on the nostalgia, it allows younger fans to be able to see, oh, this is what Alcorn did in the late 2010s. It allows you to see what times are special. It allows you to just soak up more information. I think that there are so many ways that you can take SWAC TV. So when I say that the ceiling is an ESPN Plus type of platform, I don't just mean here goes all of the SWAC content for volleyball and for football and for basketball and track and field. I don't just mean that. To me, that is a hub of SWAC entertainment, or that's a hub of SWAC sports. I think ESPN Plus could be a SWAC hub of all things entertainment. That's the best way to put it. That's the best way to put it. All the games, that's a hub of SWAC sports. An ESPN Plus type of platform is a hub for all things SWAC entertainment, which includes live programming. It includes documentaries. It includes behind the scenes things. You have Why Not Us on ESPN. Why not on SWAC TV? That's the way that I'm looking at it. All these things are possible. I'm not rushing it. I'm just talking about later down the line. This does not need to be year one. But my eyes are on the future, because I think that this has a super bright future. Now, as we push forward, we're going to take a look at HBCU 4Us really quickly, because this was something that had to grow on me. So let's talk about this as we continue and wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime, and I have a friend of mine who's in California right now, and he was going to a San Francisco Giants game. I had to make sure I had the right team. He's going to a San Francisco Giants game. I said, man, you should have told me. I would have told you to go to Gametime. Told him about the promo code and everything. He said, man, I've been on Gametime since 2013. He said, I don't go nowhere else. And I said, man, you don't even understand. You just made it to the ad. You just made it to the ad because this is a real testimony. This is really somebody saying that Gametime is the only place that I use, and I can't blame them. They have the best prices. They have the best deals. They have tickets all up until an hour after tip-off, first pitch, kickoff, whatever you want to say. I still haven't gotten to my Dallas Wings game. I'm starting to lose a little bit of hope in myself, quite frankly. But if I do, I'll be on Gametime, and I'm searching, trying to see what games are on what days and what days that I can make. But I got to get out there. I already missed my girl Asia when she came to the city to play Paige. I'll find something else, though. All right. But anyway, the point is, go to Gametime, no matter what the sport is. Baseball, women's basketball, football is on the way too. Go ahead and go to Gametime today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off your first purchase. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. HBCU 4Us had to grow on me because at first I was viewing it from a strictly competition standpoint. And after I got what I think was some immaturity out the way, I realized how beneficial this is for the long-term state of HBCU athletics. Because I think that overall, it is extremely beneficial. I'm thinking a 4-conference alliance. I was trying to destroy this other conference. Well, yeah. But then I thought about it, and I said to myself, all of the change in college athletics is typically meant to benefit bigger schools. Who's advocating for the smaller ones? A lot of times, nobody. So the only way to get that done is to have your own advocation system, to have your own system to advocate for yourself, to have your own coalition. And that's what this is. That's what this is. To me, there was a line in here in the presser that I thought was really good, really good, really good. And it said these conference commissioners will serve as the gatekeepers of HBCU athletics, providing a unified voice and strategic direction for the four conferences. Sound like some mob stuff, the four families, right? But when it comes to being a gatekeeper, is used typically pretty poorly. It's always like, oh, we don't want that stuff, so you're a gatekeeper, keep people out. No, this is about protection. This is about making sure that as the climate is changing, these opportunities that typically go to bigger schools, let's try to find a way that we can use it. Because at the end of the day, this is not about what happens on the field, the diamond, the court, the field, the track. Like, it's not about any of that. What it's about is the business side. And that's what made me realize any competition, any thought of competition that I had goes by the wayside once we start talking about business. And in the business standpoint, HBCUs for you is going to make sure, or HBCU for U's is going to make sure that SWAC, MEAC, CIAA, SIAC, everybody is on the same page on how to use and how to maneuver throughout this landscape. It can be difficult, but I think having an ally in each other, because we're going through the similar type of struggles, is going to help. At the end of the day, the MEAC wants to beat the SWAC every single year in a Celebration Bowl. Well, if the SWAC crumbles because of finances and they can't manage and now everybody's leaving and there is no SWAC anymore, then what? Then what? There ain't no SWAC to beat. And the same goes vice versa. So I think that there's a relationship between the conferences that I wasn't acknowledging at first, but it's good. And here goes the pillars. It says student athlete leadership and development, preservation of cultural heritage. And I think that's super important because there's so many more eyes on HBCUs. There's more intrigue in HBCUs, and making sure that with the people that come in, all of the culture isn't flooded away, I think is very important because culture is a part of this, right? Like culture is a part of HBCUs. And I was going to say it's part of HBCU culture, but you just can't, it's part of HBCU athletics. You can't separate them. You just can't. Athletics and culture go hand in hand in a way that is not true at all schools. It just isn't. I don't feel like that was the case at UH, and I was across the street. So that's to me, a good comparison. Then the other pillars are competitive excellence, financial sustainability and partnership. That's number one. Securing joint sponsorship, multimedia opportunities, and long-term funding for and long-term funding strategies. These are things that I'm looking at. And then lastly, unified advocacy and holistic student athlete welfare. Those are great, but it's the financial sustainability and partnerships, and it's also the preservation of cultural heritage that sticks out to me. Those are the most important things. And I think that this is going to be great long-term because it's going to ensure that HBCUs don't look much different. They just continue to elevate. And I think that's an important distinction. Anyway, on Monday's episode, we'll be talking about Southern defensive back, calling out Jackson State, calling out FAMU, doing something I want more people to do. Stop acting like you worrying about game one. I want that game and that game. It's circled on my calendar. All right. Then we're going to get to some more stuff after that. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time we get each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.